Uh-oh, ladies and gentlemen, I am in trouble again. Why am I always in trouble? I'm trending on Twitter for saying something unsayable. Look at this #1 trend. It reads, Candace Owens rejects Earth theories, faces backlash. How am I ever going to survive this? But also I have to admit that trend is kind of cool because I'm trending under science, and that is a first. It's got me feeling like CO the science gal.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Christ is king.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I know I'm having way too much fun. I have to stop. Plus, later on, we have Joe Biden's team. They have rolled out a second excuse for his debate performance. It turns out that it wasn't a cold after all. It was jet lag. Let's talk about that. And Kamala Harris is definitely going to get the black vote because she made an appearance at the BET Awards and showed how undeniably black she now is. All that coming up on Candace. All right, so whenever I'm trending over something that's just not that big of a deal, I know that there's something the establishment wants to hide. It's called a media overreaction, and that always means that there's something that you've accidentally landed upon that they don't really want to be exposed. And this is sort of what happened when on Monday, I did this whole long episode about why I am now rejecting the cult of science. So many things that they've lied to us about, vaccines, birth control, people that are being injured, and we just accept everything the experts say, and we're sacrificing our own bodies. It just feels strange. It feels wrong. When you look further in the history, they just keep lying and getting away with it. What I said was that science has become a pagan faith. Yes, that's what I actually believe. And I said, if I don't get it from the Bible and I can't observe it with my own eyes, I don't stand it as the truth. Another example of a recent media overreaction, of course, was when Tucker sat down with Joe Rogan and he started talking about World War II and how we shouldn't have dropped nukes on, praying Christians. And they freaked out, like questioning the nuke thing is not allowed. And again, I thought, Tucker must be landing on some truth that they don't want exposed. And lately, we are learning that they've lied to us about virtually everything pertaining to World War II. But it is this piece of the Tucker conversation with Joe Rogan that I keep insisting that you guys commit to memory. So take a listen one more time.
There is a whole world that we can't see that acts on people, a supernatural world. It's acting on us all the time for good and bad. Every society has thought this before ours. In fact, every society in all recorded history has thought that until, I'll be specific, August 1945, when we dropped the atom bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And all of a sudden, the West is just officially secular. We're God. There is no God but us. And that's the world that we have grown up in. But that's an anomaly. Like, no one else has ever thought that. There's never been a society that thought that. Every other society has assumed, and they've had all kinds of different explanations, and the details differ. But the core idea does not differ, never has differed from caves until now, that we're being acted on by spiritual forces at all times.
To be clear, that is what I believe made the media freak out. They dressed it up in, the morality of World War II and the bomb. But I think it was actually this. I'm starting to see a trend that every time you start talking about the Bible, you start talking about God, you start talking about spiritualism, and recognizing that America and the West is an anomaly, that there are spiritual forces that are working on people at all times, the media panics because the media, in my view, is a bit satanic. I genuinely believe this, and so did one of the people that was watching this trend. I had a random user reach out and say, the reason they're freaking out is because NASA is satanic. The origins of NASA are satanic. And I went, what? What are you talking about? And OMG, you guys, buckle up. What I'm about to tell you, you're not even going to believe me, but you can just research this. You don't even have to go down a dark hole on Reddit. You can just literally open Wikipedia. It is so in our faces, and yet we don't learn about this. And now I understand why they are very upset with me. So you may have heard of a man named Aleister Crowley. If you haven't, I'll provide you with some brief spark notes. Aleister Crowley was an Englishman. He was also a drug abuser. He was a bisexual who is credited with heavily influencing the eventual counterculture revolution of the 60s in America. Free love, free love. Yeah, that book, Chaos. Things got weird and satanic in the 60s in America. And America is where this Englishman, Aleister Crowley, eventually moved. But what he is most famous for is black magic. He was an occultist who pledged his allegiance to demons. He believed that he could summon demons, okay? The story goes that when he was 13 years old, he read the book of Revelation in the Bible, and he became inspired, not by Jesus Christ, but by the seven-headed beast that is ridden by the whore of Babylon. So in case you are somebody that's not familiar with the Bible and Revelations, they talk about this seven-headed beast that rules over every tribe and people and tongue and nation, okay? So it's satanic. It's a satanic beast. When Aleister got older, he started a religious cult, a satanic cult known as the Lima. Crowley believed that the number of the beast, 666, was significant. He believed that humanity was entering in a new eon and that his religious motto, which was do what thou wilt, would rule it, right? He believed that actually he could create this beast and rule over nations by practicing rituals. He routinely practiced sex rituals. He believed in masochistic and sadistic sex, believed in free love, and he was very much connected to the elite in America. He was just openly publishing articles for Vanity Fair because he was best friends with their editor, and many of the elite in our society were his followers and believers. A Satanist. This is a fact. You can look this up. One such follower was a man named Jack Parsons, another wealthy young man. And here's what you should know about this time period. Before Jack Parsons enters the scene in America, the scientific consensus was that we would never enter space, that was an impossibility. But this rich kid, who also happens to be an occultist and who also would perform sex rituals and blood sacrifice to summon demons, well, no, he expressed the belief that they could fundamentally alter humanity, and he had a vision. He said, no, we can make this work. We can get to space. Check out this article. Again, this is published. You can look this up yourself. Here's the headline: Sex, Rocket Science, and Satanism. Meet NASA's real hidden figures. And I'm going to read you directly from this article because it's so unbelievable. My jaw was on the floor. I'm skimming through it because it's way too long. It would make this show forever, but we will link it, and you absolutely must read it. It reads, quote, Jack Parsons is barely acknowledged on NASA's website, and he's the man who made rockets a reality and co-founded the agency's Jet Propulsion Lab, JPL, home to missions which paved the way for the Apollo programs and continue to explore Mars and outer space today. If Parsons' life story was a film script, it would be dubbed preposterous. He invented jet propulsion technology in the face of industry-wide derision that rockets would never exist, but was also a senior figure in the occult and invited L. Ron Hubbard, yes, L. Ron Hubbard of Scientology, into his confidence and riotous sex parties. Parsons tried to sell his government-funded inventions to Israel before winding up dying at the age of 37 in a self-created explosion, leaving a mass of disturbing materials for his friends to discover. Here's the remarkably twisting tale of his life. So he too, like Aleister Crowley, was just interested in the demonic when he was young. He also liked science fiction. His story begins when he's 14 years old. And as a fan of science fiction, he decides to begin experiments that would eventually shape his life with his school friend named Edward Foreman. The pair took to playing with rockets in Parsons' back garden and soon created their own solid-fueled rockets. It was here that Jack would begin to link science with Satanism. Parsons later claimed he first summoned the devil at age 13 in a terrifying experience. Jack and Ed would later attend and then drop out of college. In 1936, they met a 22-year-old Frank Molina, who was a grad student who shared their passion for defying gravity. When Parsons and Molina met, their enthusiasm for rocketry and space travel bonded them like a Masonic handshake, one writer says. I'm sure it did. Molina helped by getting their research funded by Caltech, and their experiments were quite dangerous. There were a lot of explosions. And so he and his friends became known as the Suicide Squad. They decided to move their experiments into the desert, and this part is just amazing. I'm going to read you a direct quotation here. Once again, Jack's fascinations with the occult and rocketry collided. In the desert lands outside of Caltech, there is a former river channel called Arroyo Seco. It is flanked on both sides by rock, one of which is called Devil's Gate, thanks to its shape of a horned head. Some locals believed the mouth of Arroyo Seco was a portal to other dimensions. But for Parsons, the area had two uses. He tested rockets there, but years later, he would return to conduct ceremonies and rituals with other occultists in the same spot. By golly, guys, what then happens is that on Halloween of all nights in 1936, they have a scientific breakthrough after they accidentally set fire to the oxygen line of their small rocket motor. And although it didn't launch, Melita and his team were enthused. They said this test was successful. He wrote to his parents, and NASA would later consider that experiment, which happened again on Halloween, to be the first rocket experiment of what would later become the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. So there was a method to the Suicide Squad's madness. They had created a fuel that would burn cleanly and be stored without exploding. And the scientific community was skeptical, but the U.S. Army saw potential, and they offered to fund the Trios project in 1939. So great. Satanic little cult meets the United States government. Thereafter, Jack's credibility in the scientific community soared, and so did his interest in the supernatural and the demonic. He was taken to a meeting of OTO, which stands for the Order of Templi Orientis, an occult society in Los Angeles in 1939, and he became fully engrossed. If you're wondering what OTO is, it was a group that was formed by and followed the teachings of Aleister Crowley. Again, the heroin-addicted sexual deviant and occultist who was considered the wickedest man in the world by the press in his native England. Parsons went from just reading Crowley's writings to becoming the Beast 666's pen pal. Within a few years, Crowley considered Parsons his American protege. Parsons was barely in his mid-20s, and he was not at all concerned with keeping his personal and professional proclivities separate. The article tells us that the California Tech ran stories at the time that reported that he chanted Crowley's hymn before he lit his rockets. They're just chanting satanic, demonic hymns before they lit these rockets, guys. This is not a joke. This is not a test. This is history that is hiding right under your nose. By 1941, he and his wife, Helen, who he had married 5 years earlier, were indicted into what was known as the Agape Lodge, which was a branch of the church which practiced Crowley's religion of Thelemic magic. Then they came into money. They founded the Aerojet Engineering Corporation, which became the world's largest manufacturer of rockets and propellants. And within 20 years, it had become a $700 million a year business. Parsons was the vice president. A year later, he co-founded the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. So now that he's rich, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You've got government contacts, you've got money, you're having sex rituals. Well, he just is going to make the whole demonic sex rituals bigger because obviously it has led to success, summoning demons, believing in Satan. And what he did next was he took out a lease on a mansion in Pasadena's Millionaires Row on Orange Grove Avenue and invited fellow Thelemites to live communally in what was known as the parsonage. This is really kind of the earliest iteration of a hippie commune, if you ask me. And of course, if you've read that book, Chaos, you just are going, OMG, Candace. So what did they do at the parsonage? Well, the parsonage had 10 bedrooms, but its greatest asset, for Parsons at least, according to this article, was its additional 3-bedroom coach house, which became an Agape Lodge. The commune was self-sufficient, maintaining allotments and livestock to eat and use for blood rituals. Those were the tame events. The blood rituals were the tame events that unfolded at the parsonage. The residents of the Orange Grove made frequent complaints to the police about loud music, drug taking, and the naked pregnant women that were dancing through fire in the garden. This is totally normal stuff, guys. It's just, coming up with NASA and jet propulsion, you sometimes got to have a naked pregnant woman dancing in the garden through fire. Parsons would greet people at the door with a live snake wrapped around his shoulders. And when the police would turn up, he would tell them, hey, look, I'm a Caltech scientist. There's no trouble going on here. I'm connected. I'm connected to the government. I've got money. You leave me alone. And I guess they just left him alone. Somehow this is going to get creepier, guys, because in the mid-40s, Jack decided that he wanted to push the barriers of his Satanism a little more, pushing the barriers of Thelemic magic to a new level. He wanted to take the spirit of Babylon, the goddess that they worshipped, and instill it into a human being. In short, he wanted to impregnate a woman that he believed to have certain powers so that she would give birth to a child that would embody the forces of Babylon. So between January and March of 1946, yep, we're coming now to the end of World War II. So think about what Tucker said. Hubbard, again, that's L. Ron Hubbard of Scientology, assisted Parsons in a series of rituals that they called Babylon working. And on January 18th, a woman named Marjorie Cameron, who had red hair, turned up at the parsonage, and he believed that this is it. This is the Scarlet Woman that he had called forth via his rituals. The moment had arrived. It is done, Parsons told Hubbard. I returned home and found a young woman answering the requirements waiting for me. I thought I had the most morbid imaginations, but it seems I have not. If you're wondering who that redheaded woman was, she was a woman that had been recently discharged from the Navy. She had a free spirit. She happened to have red hair. She was happy to have sex with Parsons because, again, they promoted free love. Hubbard was then promoted to a position of high priesthood mere weeks after being exposed to the Thelemic black magic, and he incanted rite and ritual. Some of it he did completely off of the cuff. What was the result? Well, afterwards, on March 6th, Parsons wrote enthusiastically to Aleister Crowley. He wrote, quote, I can hardly tell you or decide how much I want to write. I am under command of extreme secrecy. I have had the most important, devastating experience of my life. Crowley responded to him, writing, quote, you have me completely puzzled by your remark. I thought I had the most morbid imagination, but it seems I have not. I cannot form the slightest idea what you can possibly mean. Well, what Parsons meant was he had created a moon child. That's what they were trying to create, a moon child as their final experiment, creating a child of Babylon. The ending of the story, by the way, which we're coming to, gets a little bit shady. They say that apparently after all of that, after impregnating this woman, after chanting after the sex rituals, after driving this woman forth, that she agreed to have an abortion. Parsons then came under the investigation of the FBI. They believe that he had been planning to give his rocket plans to the newly founded Israeli government in exchange for admission to the country and the chance of a new life abroad. Then he died rather mysteriously, Jack Parsons, in an explosion. Some claim he was suicided. Some claim that it was an accident. Some claim that he never died and actually he just disappeared. Honestly, we'll never know. We don't need to peddle in conspiracy theory because in this story, truth is stranger than fiction. There you have it, guys. That's the origins of NASA and the program, the Jet Propulsion Program, we're going to make it to space mission. But don't worry, it would be totally crazy for you guys to think that Satan worshipers are still involved in NASA. Obviously, after it got started, they went totally clean. Everything was been above board. Nobody believes in this stuff anymore. And everything's great and everything's normal. And now suddenly, I guess the goals of Aleister Crowley was to create a society that would deceive the entire world. Now suddenly in the West, we don't believe in any of this stuff. We look back on that story of a man who dedicated his entire life and an entire religious cult to summoning demons, saying that they had summoned them successfully, that they had experiences with Satan, and they were just being imaginative. Yeah, no. Satan can't possibly be real, right? So yeah, think back to what Tucker is saying, that suddenly after this period, exactly when this was going on, when people were following this religion and believing in Satan, and then suddenly Americans just kind of got on board the atheist train. And we just said, yeah, no, we don't believe in any of that stuff in spiritualism anymore. Instead, what we believe in is science, rationality. And God forbid someone like Candace start talking about the Bible. Oh my God, there she is. She's saying she doesn't just trust the science. Yeah, I'm saying actually a little bit more than that. I think science has become a bit satanic. You know, they're telling you to do things that are utterly satanic, sacrificing your children in the name of science because it's just a clump of cells. It's getting weird out there. And I'm sorry that I notice. And that's all I'll say on that topic. We've been talking about a lot of bad. I think it's now time to talk about something good. You know what's good? The fact that the 4th of July is happening tomorrow. Well, it's not actually that good for me because my husband's English. So it's a very sensitive holiday in my household. But did you know anyways, because he's not watching, that 250 years ago, Americans revolted against imported goods at the Boston Tea Party? Unfortunately, over 85% of grass-fed beef sold in stores is imported from overseas today. That is why it is high time that we revolt again, this time against the imports in the meat aisle. Throw those overpriced, low-quality cuts overboard and shop Good Ranchers instead. Good Ranchers is the sole sponsor of this episode, and with July 4th just being one day away, they want you to know the best way to celebrate America is with American meat. Good Ranchers provides 100% American meat that you can trust, raised on local farms without any antibiotics or added hormones, delivered right to your door. And right now, they have an incredible offer just for you. You'll get $100 off plus free Wagyu burgers for a year when you subscribe to any of their curated boxes. A $400 value available to all Candace listeners if you use code Candace. From better than organic chicken to perfectly aged steaks, Good Ranchers has all the meat that you need to make flavorful and memorable meals every night of the week. So do not settle for mystery meat. Visit goodranchers.com and use code Candace to claim this amazing deal. Join the modern day meat revolution with Good Ranchers and enjoy the peace of mind that comes from knowing where your food comes from. That's goodranchers.com, code Candace for $100 off plus 3 pounds of Wagyu burgers in every order for a year. goodranchers.com, American meat delivered. All right, guys, now let's get into some stories. But before we get into these stories, you already know what I'm going to say. Head to clubcandace.com and buy your Candace cup. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and also hit notifications in case I just surprise you and go live. All right, first up, who do we have? Joe Biden. So just to jog your memory, you'll recall that after the debate, actually during the debate, it was kind of amazing. The propagandists immediately realized that he was not going to have a good night. And I think it was some MSNBC reporter who threw out a tweet saying, I am told from sources that are close to Joe Biden that he has a cold. Yeah, and we were all wondering what kind of cold this was, if they were dropping the newest COVID iteration, and in this cold you just go and don't know what you're saying. Well, obviously the public was not biting. Pardon, and they needed to go to the market with something else. And apparently, what he is now telling people. Remarkably, he still has people that are giving him money even after that performance, and he told people at a private fundraiser that the reason that he performed so abysmally that night was because he had jet lag. Speaking at a private fundraiser in Virginia on Tuesday evening, he said he wasn't very smart for going on all of those trips before the debate. He said, quote, I didn't have my best night. I decided to travel around the world a couple of times, going through, I don't know how many time zones. I figure it was about 50 time zones in the couple of weeks before the debate. End quote. Yeah, so he went through 50 time zones. He also says that he didn't listen to his staff and he came back and he simply just fell asleep on stage. And I gotta be honest, if I went through 50 time zones ahead of a debate, I would also be tired, and we should be understanding of that, except it didn't happen. Obviously, that is not what happened whatsoever. Instead, here was his schedule leading up to the debate. So Biden went to France for the 80th anniversary of D-Day in early June. Then he went to Italy for the G7 meeting on June 12th. He followed that up with a trip to Los Angeles. That was on June 15th. And that was it. Afterwards, he returned to Washington on June 16th, 11 days before the debate. He and his team then holed up at Camp David for prepping for the debate. And what's really funny about during those preps was essentially Biden would wake up at 11 a.m. They would do a couple of hours of prepping, and then he would go and have a nap. That is what is being alleged. So that is what exhausted him. He had 11 days to get over this jet lag from going through 50 time zones. And by 50 time zones, he meant 3, over the course of half a month. That's what he actually meant. Anyways, he was still so exhausted, and all of the naps at Camp David didn't help, nor did being on the East Coast for 11 full days before the debate. And he was still very, very tired. I think it's important for us to see what he's talking about. What is he speaking about when he says jet lag? I'm going to show you a video of Joe Biden in 2019 when he ran compared to his debate performance. Take a listen.
I continue to think we have to make fundamental changes in civil rights. And those civil rights, by the way, include not just only African Americans, but the LGBT community.
He wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education. That's what I oppose.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if you will determine the outcome of this election, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
Well, Trump, he was jet lagged. He had 11 days of jet lag because he went through 50 time zones. Yeah, definitely not jet lag. And listen, I get people that are watching this and they just feel bad for him because it's so obvious that he has dementia. But no, you should not feel bad for him. You should feel bad for yourselves, okay? They knew that he had early onset dementia back in 2019, okay? Even that performance that you saw on the left there where he's talking clearly, that was definitively after a shot of something. The thing about dementia, though, is that eventually you can't just give somebody a shot and expect them to get over it. It actually progresses quite quickly in most circumstances. And all of us have a loved one who has gone through this. We recognize the symptoms. We see the signs. We can see it in the way that he's walking. And they want you to, it's just mean to pick on him. No, it is absolutely unacceptable that they allowed him to run the country for 4 years. To be fair, he wasn't running it. Obviously, there was a shadow government and they just preferred him because he was evil, an easy puppet for them to maneuver. But we're the ones that are suffering because of it. And people were deluded, and they called us bad people for saying early on that obviously this man was being hidden from the public because he had early onset dementia. And it's now no longer early onset, which makes Jill Biden evil, but also the entire Democratic Party for just lying to the faces of people that are their constituents and saying, no, there's nothing wrong with him. There's nothing wrong with him. Until they could no longer deny it, which is what happened. So again, do not feel bad for him because he lived his life as a very evil person who lied routinely. And he at least was clear enough in 2019 to know that he was imparting this scam on the American people. And he was okay with it. He was completely complicit. Now it's just his wife that is complicit and the apparatus that surrounds them. It seems like they're fixing to replace him. Who knows with who? We're hearing Michelle Obama. But I'll tell you one thing, if Kamala Harris has anything to do with it, it's going to be her. There's a lot of bad stuff happening, and I don't know, other than dementia, what's going on with Biden. Maybe it's got something to do with his diet. Maybe the real issue is that he is not eating good meat. And I don't have that problem because I eat Good Ranchers. Good Ranchers is what I am subscribed to, meat that arrives at your door. And that is where I am directing you guys to go to goodranchers.com/Candace to make sure that you don't eat whatever meat causes that to have 11-day jet lag. Listen, the original colonies had to fight 7 long years for their independence, but you can get independence from the meat aisle in less than 7 minutes at goodranchers.com. Simply pick your box of beef, chicken, pork, or wild-caught seafood, customize it with add-ons, and use code Candace to claim $100 off. Plus, free Wagyu burgers for a year. Join the meat revolution and free your meals from imported low-quality meat. This is Good Ranchers' best offer ever, $100 off your first 3 orders, $40 off your first, $30 off your second, and $30 off your third. And that's not all. You'll also get those free Wagyu burgers for a year. In total, that is $400 of savings to celebrate this great nation. Good Ranchers sources all of their cuts exclusively from family farms and ranches in the U.S. Imagine the satisfaction of knowing that every bite you take supports American farmers, helps American veterans, and delivers the quality that your family deserves. So do not wait. Head to goodranchers.com and use code Candace to take advantage of this incredible offer. It's time to declare your independence from low-quality imports and enjoy the best meat that America has to offer. That's goodranchers.com, code Candace. Good Ranchers, American meat delivered. Well, I'll tell you one thing, guys. I'll tell you who they're going to deliver to us on a figurative, non-silver platter, actually, because Kamala Harris is smelling the blood in the water. She is like, yeah, this is why I've been pretending to do anything for the last 4 years, is because I want to rise and shine to the top. I am the obvious next pick because I, too, can't speak and I don't have dementia as an excuse. I just literally never know what the heck I'm talking about. And let's not forget, Kamala Harris is partially black, even though, when she was pledged into Congress, she wanted everyone to know that she was an Indian. She's really leaning into being black since becoming the vice president of the United States. And there was this, honestly, just a horrific moment that I really don't want to show you. But here is a skit that she put together with the host of the BET Awards, Taraji P. Henson. And yeah, I guess just watch it and try not to cringe. You won't be able to do it. So if you're driving and listening to this, be safe. Take a listen.
No, Taraji. Now, you know I wouldn't do that, especially not to a fellow bison. The real, ain't you? You know. So what's on your mind?
Oh, Madam VP Harris, I'm worried about the election. Women's reproductive rights are on the line. Our Supreme Court is on the line. Our basic freedoms are being tested, Madam VP. I know you've been traveling across the country. What are you hearing?
Yeah, girl, I'm out here in these streets. And let me tell you, you're right, Taraji. There is so much at stake in this moment. The majority of us believe in freedom and equality. But these extremists, as they say, they're not like us.
They not.
There's a full-on attack on our fundamental freedoms. The freedom to vote.
Yep.
The freedom to love who you love. The freedom to be safe from gun violence. The freedom for a woman to make decisions about her own body, not having her government tell her what to do.
Yep. I'm just going to cringe with you. I'm just going to go ahead and put my shoulders up and just do the thing because please, Black America, I know this is not it. This is just not it. You watch this and you felt what I've been saying to you for years and you hate feeling it. You hate feeling the thing where it comes up and it's like, I think Candace was right. I think this is patronizing. And they might just think that because we're Black, we're stupid. I know you hate having that thought. For those who are people that strongly dislike me and my rhetoric, because some people don't like hearing the truth. But somewhere deep down, you knew that you were just being played. I mean, are you kidding me? In these streets? Kamala Harris in these streets? Okay. As in like Pennsylvania Avenue? As in like you're flying Air Force Two with Secret Service? Is that what she means by in these streets? What they are telling you is their perception of you. You are low information voters. You respond to all the right buzzwords. I'm going to say something about reproductive health. I'm going to say something about guns. And I'm going to tell you that the other side is bad and make you feel real Black and make you afraid of the boogeyman, which is white people getting power again. And they're actually doing it. They're running this playbook again. I do not think it is going to work, but it's not because Kamala Harris is going to keep trying her best to secure the Black vote in the cringiest way possible. Which brings me to this moment, because there are people, of course, that are doing the bidding for Kamala Harris, because, of course, if it's going to be anyone that takes the place of Biden, it must be the Black woman under him. So here we have Areva Martin. In case you're wondering who she is, she's a civil rights attorney and a CNN legal analyst, which means that full-time she is supposed to remind Black people that they are Black and that they, therefore, must do the bidding of a Democrat Party. Are we tired of this, Black people? Let me know in the comments if we are. Well, she made an appearance on Stephen A. Smith's podcast, speaking on behalf of Black women everywhere. Take a listen.
You pick a white man over Kamala Harris, Black women, I can tell you this, we're going to walk away, we're going to blow the party up. If you pick the Black woman...
Where you going to walk away to, Areva? Where you going to walk away to? You going to walk away? You ain't going to walk away to Trump?
Over Kamala Harris. So where are we getting agreement from on who this ideal Democratic candidate should be? Tell me that. Nobody's told me who it should be. And then tell me how you're going to get the 4,000 delegates, which I am one of them. I'm a delegate coming from California. So who's going to step out? One, tell Joe Biden you got to step aside, because everybody's not being mature about this process. Joe Biden is not just the president. There's a whole team of people. There's an administration. So if Joe Biden, when he gets reelected, which my prediction is that he will, he brings with him Kamala Harris, the most diverse administration in the history of this country. Y'all need to just stay the course. We got more Black judges appointed under Joe Biden than anyone, even President Barack Obama.
What I love about that clip so much is that in the end, she's like, we just need to be mature. But she starts off by saying, like, we're going to blow it up. We're just we going to get ghetto if we don't get what we want. And that everyone just needs to be mature, okay? We going to get ghetto if be mature. And that really just embodies a civil rights attorney to me right there, where they're basically, it's the shakedown culture. It's like, give us what we want, or we're just going to come for your whole life and we're going to call you racist. Like that is actually the argument. She doesn't make one sound argument as to why Kamala Harris is equipped to lead the country. She's just telling you she's Black, and if we don't get what we want, we will do what the Democrats call for us to do, which is riot on their behalf. Anybody tired of this? I've been exhausted of this, but you know me. I was anti-BLM from the beginning, and when I see this stuff, it is just the most predictable thing ever. Frankly, I think her rhetoric is really bad. You want to know what's really good? Good ranchers, my friends. Because the Declaration of Independence states that we all have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and I can't think of a way to be happier than having delicious food and moments at the table with my family. Good Ranchers helps me do both of those things by delivering high-quality American meat right to my door. Their meat is truly, and I mean this, it's some of the best that I've ever had. You always see me tagging it on Instagram. It's delicious. Do not miss out on their July 4th special. Go get yourself $100 off plus free Wagyu burgers for a year with my code Candace at goodranchers.com. You will never go back to the meat aisle again once you try Good Ranchers quality. 100% American. There's no antibiotics or added hormones. I could keep listing all the benefits, or you could just go and try and see it for yourself, because I've just been so smooth with these ad transitions. The proof is in the protein. Here's my absolute favorite part about Good Ranchers. They're a company that is built by an American family on American values. The founders, Ben and Corley Spell, wanted food that they could trust for their kids, and they just couldn't find a convenient, transparent source of American meat. So they embraced the American spirit and their faith in God and became the solution that we all needed. Go join the meat revolution and claim your independence from the meat aisle at goodranchers.com with code Candace. $100 off plus free Wagyu burgers for a year. Do not miss out on this offer. Go try Good Ranchers today. All right, guys, now it's time to jump into some of your comments. I was completely overwhelmed with the stories that people were sharing, people that had survived, whose families had survived, what the Allies did to them following World War II. And here's just one comment. At Plankamus writes, my grandfather was a Sudetendeutscher. He was an amazing man and never stopped feeling connected to his homeland. His sister was raped by Russian soldiers and never married. His brother lost his legs as an underage soldier in Stalingrad. They lost their farm, were expelled from their home. I have endless reverence for his perseverance. So true, so true. Stephanie writes, been waiting for someone to actually talk about this as a German descendant. My grandmother had to escape with my German Jewish grandfather to England. Nothing is told about the innocent people that lost everything and had to run away. It is very true. And you know what's scary is to think that they then just passed laws. Like if you questioned the World War II narrative that had been assigned at all, and this still goes on today, you can be arrested. Like the Germans are still fearful because of speech laws that were passed. And I hope that people who watch this show understand why I am covering these topics, because it's close to home, meaning they are talking about passing speech laws in this country, okay? And for whatever reason, Americans, we have just had our heads up in the clouds. Like we do not realize that it is so easy to remove freedom. And if we don't start paying attention, learning real history, learning how it was done, then we are going to become victims of it in the future. I truly believe that. This person writes, this is Abu Bakar, a frequent listener from Mogadishu. I have been following your career since your congressional hearing back in the days. I have to say I enjoy your outlook more now as an independent commentator. You don't seem to shy away from the topics that matter to your countrymen, like spirituality and religion, which I believe America needs more of and not less. To be clear, I'm a Muslim man, but I believe a God-conscious America will be good for the world. I wish you a fruitful career in the path that you've taken. Remember, the world needs more speech, not less. Take care, Global Fan. Thank you so much. I fully believe that as well. And I am definitely taking more risks because I feel that we are at risk as a country. And I think about my children. And if we don't have the courage, people say, Candace, you have so much courage. Most commentators won't talk about this stuff. I find that to be cowardice. You literally don't care about your kids. You're like, okay, well, will America probably be okay until I die? Probably. But then what about future generations? We all feel it. We all feel the squeeze of communism happening right now. We feel the never-ending war. And we have to be a generation that's going to stand up to it. It's totally fine to be called mean names on the internet. Like being called an idiot on the internet, who cares? Like these people they mean nothing to me in the scheme of things. Kay Joy writes, I am Japanese American. My grandmother watched Pearl Harbor happen from her backyard. Her father owned a convenience store right near the military base. And after Pearl Harbor, the servicemen harassed, assaulted, and stole from them. Then they finally rounded them up and shipped them off to a containment camp in California. Her father, mother, sister, 3 brothers, and her. Each one died from various diseases by the end of it. Just my 12-year-old grandmother and her 16-year-old sister were left. They gave them $20 and a bus ticket. They lost everything, their family, their home, and their business. They had to start over as children in a place they didn't know with just each other and somehow did it. Listen to her tell that story was heartbreaking, and I still don't know how she did it. She always was and always will be my hero. Yeah, and that's also, speaking about the strength that we should have, you really should reflect on what your grandparents or your great-grandparents lived through, a time of global tumult, and what you end up realizing is how we've just been so weakened. Like people actually collapse at the idea of being called a name. Like I don't want to say, I know it's not true, but I don't want to be called transphobic. I don't want to be called racist. I don't want to be called anti-Semitic. I don't want people on the internet making fun of me. I don't want to be trending because I'm talking about the Satanic, not NASA origins. Who cares, guys? Grow up. I mean, this is like old school, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words may never hurt me. And let me tell you something. If you were dealing with people that are psychopathic, I mean, the lies that they have told and the scale at which they have told them are utterly psychopathic, and they will fight like hell to protect the narrative, and I will similarly fight like hell to break it. Lastly, I got this comment on Manect, and it's a comment that I get often. It says, hey, Candace, I am David and was one of the parents that participated in those 4 monthly Zoom calls about childhood vaccines in 2022 as you were recording them for Parler. I loved the reshoots for Daily Wire, but I wonder what the long-term plan is for that series. Do you have plans to find a new home for it? It's one of the most profoundly important projects I believe you have worked on, and I don't think that you will ever know how much good has ultimately come out of that series. Thanks again for it, and I love discussing that all with you on those Zoom calls. Yes, and first and foremost, I just want to thank you, Dave, for being one of the early supporters of A Shot in the Dark, because I was doing it by myself. It was not fashionable pre-COVID to be a person that was speaking out against vaccines, and I knew that God gave me a platform for many reasons, and I do believe that children are being poisoned under the guise of science. And I created that series to simply give parents information that is being hidden from them in plain sight. Same thing I'm doing with this show. I'm giving you information about history that is being hidden right under your nose that you may not know. And we will definitively bring it back, because nothing makes me happier than when I'm walking down the street and people come up to me with their babies and they're like, I have the healthiest baby ever. Thanks to your series, I was informed and I felt comfortable saying no to this, and didn't just use the doctor God science. Doctors would trust the science. Don't even ask questions. You don't know anything. We're going to use fear tactics to make you fearful not to listen to us. Again, science has transformed into a pagan cult with various deities, doctors, authorities, the CDC, the FDA, NASA, all of this stuff just telling you what to believe, and when you really actually don't know anything. Like, we have no information and we blindly trust authorities. I don't do that anymore. I want to know what the information is. And as I've said, and I will say again, I believe that your discernment comes from God. We talk about your gut instinct. That's your God instinct. And that there are people that are intentionally moving us away in our society, moving us away from God, moving us away from our instinct. And I hope that anything that I create draws you closer to that, draws you closer to understanding that you have a creator, and your creator isn't a doctor or a scientist. It just isn't. I'm sorry. It is God. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here, please head to locals.com and support the show in any capacity that you can. You can donate one time, you can become a monthly donor, or you can become an annual donor. We would appreciate anything because we want to keep the show free to talk about every topic, and free to declare that Christ is King. We will see you guys on Friday.